She had lost everything, her husband, her child, and her will to live. Rain poured down in relentless sheets as she stood at the edge of the old stone bridge, staring into the raging waters below. It should have been peaceful, freeing even, but the storm inside her matched the one around her. And then, through the roar of the rain, a quiet voice broke the silence. Not today. 2 simple words, spoken by a stranger who had no idea that those words would save a life. Gabriel Hayes hadn't planned to be a hero that night. He was just a single father walking home with a 6-year-old daughter, Indy, after work, both soaked from the Oregon rain. But fate has a way of placing the right souls in the right place at the right time. "Daddy, why is that lady standing in the rain?" Indy asked, her small hand tightening in his. Gabriel followed her gaze and froze. The woman on the bridge wasn't simply standing. She was deciding. Years of working construction had trained his instincts. One look at her white knuckles gripping the railing, and he knew. "Stay right there, baby," he said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made Indy go still. He guided her behind one of the bridge's stone pillars. "Daddy just needs to talk to that lady for a minute, okay?" The rain blurred everything. But even through the haze, he saw the tremor in the woman's shoulders, the soaked auburn hair plastered to her head. She looked small and fragile, as though the rain itself might wash her away. Gabriel approached slowly. "Excuse me, miss. Are you all right?" Her head turned slightly. Her eyes, green but hollow, red-rimmed from hours of crying, met his. "I'm fine," she said automatically, her voice hoarse. "Just enjoying the view." He glanced down at the water below, brown and furious from days of storms. "Not much of a view tonight," he said softly. The woman gave a short, bitter laugh. "Rough feels appropriate." That's when he noticed her trembling hands. She wasn't contemplating. She was fighting, against herself, against the world, against the urge to let go. "I'm Gabriel," he said gently. "That's my daughter, Indy, over there. We were just heading to her dance class." The woman's gaze flicked toward the little girl peeking from behind the pillar. Despite the cold rain and the weight in her chest, she managed the faintest smile when Indy gave a shy wave. "She's beautiful," the woman whispered, her voice cracking. "You're lucky." "I am," Gabriel said quietly. "But luck doesn't always play fair, does it?" Her shoulders shook, and tears mingled with the rain. "Lucky," she echoed. "I don't even remember what that feels like." Gabriel didn't rush her. Years of working with men who broke under pressure had taught him that silence can be a kind of lifeline. Finally, she spoke. 3 weeks ago, she said, staring down at the water, "I had everything. My husband, Trevor, our son, Jasper. He was 8, bright, kind, wanted to be a veterinarian. Said animals deserve someone who understood their hurts." She paused, her breath catching. Then there was a fire at the grain elevator where Trevor worked. The electrical malfunction, they said. He didn't make it out. Gabriel felt a physical ache deep in his chest. He glanced back at Indy, who was drawing shapes in the puddles with a stick, blissfully unaware of the storm between these 2 strangers. "I'm so sorry," Gabriel murmured. "I can't imagine." "But that wasn't the end," she interrupted. "I thought at least I still had Jasper, that we could heal together." Her knuckles tightened on the railing. "Last Sunday, he wanted to visit his grandpa's old farm. Said the horses might make him feel closer to his dad." Her voice trembled. "It had been raining, just like now. The road was slick. We slid into a ditch 5 miles out of town." She stopped, shaking her head like she could shake the memory away. "I woke up in the hospital 2 days later. Jasper," she couldn't finish, but she didn't need to. Gabriel closed his eyes briefly, grief twisting in his stomach. "They said he hit his head when we rolled," she whispered. "Said it was quick, that he didn't suffer. But I did this. I killed my son." "No," Gabriel said firmly. "You didn't. It was an accident, terrible, unfair, but not your fault." Her laugh was hollow. "Trevor's insurance paid for Jasper's funeral. Imagine that, burying your child with your husband's death benefits." She looked out over the bridge, her voice quiet and final. "I've been walking for 2 days now. No money, no family, No reason left. They say drowning feels peaceful once you stop fighting it. For a long moment, the rain and the river were the only sounds. Then a small voice pierced the storm. "Daddy," Indy's head peeked around the pillar. "Is the lady sad? She looks like I did when my goldfish went to heaven." The innocence in her voice cut through the air like sunlight breaking through clouds. The woman turned slowly, meeting Indy's gaze. "Yes, sweetheart," she said softly. "The lady is very, very sad." Indy tilted her head, thinking. "My daddy says when we're sad, we need hugs, hot chocolate, and maybe cookies if we have them." Despite herself, the woman smiled. "A small, fragile thing, but real. Your daddy sounds very wise." Gabriel stepped closer. "She's right about the hot chocolate. There's a cafe just down the street. Best in town. Would you come with us? Just to get out of the rain for a bit?" She blinked, clearly surprised. "I don't have any money." "My treat," Gabriel said quickly. "Consider a favor from one parent to another." The woman studied his face, as if trying to find a catch. When she didn't, her expression softened into something close to disbelief. "I don't understand why you care," she whispered. "You don't even know me." Gabriel looked down at the water, remembering his own nights of despair. "Maybe because I know what it feels like to drown on dry land. And maybe because my daughter is watching, and I want her to learn we don't walk away from people who are hurting." Indy grinned from behind him. "And Daddy says glitter is a food group in ballet class." That earned a laugh from the woman. "Small but real." "Not today," Gabriel said softly. "Whatever you were thinking before, not today. Come have hot chocolate with us. Give yourself one more day to see what tomorrow might bring." The woman's grip loosened. "I don't know how to keep going," she said. "You don't have to know how," Gabriel replied. "You just have to try. One step, one cup of hot chocolate, one conversation at a time." She closed her eyes, trembling, then finally stepped back from the railing. "Okay," she whispered, "just for the hot chocolate." As they walked off the bridge, Indy slipped her tiny hand into the woman's. "What's your name?" "I'm Indy Hayes, and I'm 6 3/4. I'm going to be a butterfly in my dance recital on Saturday." The woman hesitated, then said, "Rosalind." "Rosalind Kraft. And I think being a butterfly sounds wonderful. Do you want to come watch me dance?" Indy asked, grinning. "My daddy says I'm good, but daddies have to say that." Gabriel saw something flicker in Rosalind's eyes. Something fragile, like the first spark of life returning. "I'd love to," she said. They reached Mabel's Cafe, a tiny place glowing warm light through rain-streaked windows. The bell chimed as they entered. "Gabriel Hayes and Miss Indy," called Mabel from behind the counter. "You two are soaked. Get yourselves by the heater." "3 hot chocolates, please," Gabriel said, "with extra whipped cream." Indy added brightly. As Mabel bustled away, Rosalind sat quietly, hands wrapped around the mug as warmth began to seep into her bones. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than grief. As the storm eased outside Mabel's Cafe, the air inside hummed with warmth and quiet life. The smell of cinnamon and coffee filled the little shop, wrapping the three of them in a kind of peace that felt almost sacred. Rosalind sat across from Gabriel and Indy, both hands cupped around the steaming mug. She hadn't realized how cold she'd been until the heat began to thaw the ache inside her chest. Gabriel watched her carefully, not with pity, but with understanding. "You know," he said gently, "my landlord told me yesterday the apartment above mine is empty, and Mabel's been looking for help since her last waitress moved to Portland. It's not much, but—" Rosalind blinked. "Why would you do this?" Her voice trembled. "You don't know me. You don't know me anything." Gabriel smiled faintly. 4 years ago, I was in line at a grocery store, broke, exhausted, trying to buy diapers with food stamps. I was counting change. Indy was crying, and I was seconds from breaking down. Then a woman behind me quietly slipped me a $20 bill and said, "We all need help sometimes." I never saw her again. He met Rosalind's eyes. I couldn't pay her back, but I learned something important that day. Maybe we're not supposed to pay it back. Maybe we're supposed to pay it forward to the next person who needs it. Rosalind's eyes filled again, though this time not just with pain. I killed my child, she whispered suddenly, the words raw and shaking. How do you come back from that? You didn't kill anyone, Gabriel said firmly. You were in an accident, something cruel and senseless. But it wasn't your fault. You loved your son. You still do. That love doesn't end, Rosalind. It changes. It becomes a reason you keep going. Her tears spilled freely now, but they were cleansing this time, not destructive. Indy looked up from her mug, whipped cream dotting her nose. My daddy cried when Mommy went away, she said innocently. He used to think I didn't hear him, but I did. Gabriel looked away, his throat tightening. But then, Indy continued cheerfully, he learned how to make butterfly pancakes, and we got happy again. You can make butterfly pancakes too, Miss Rosalind. Daddy can teach you. Rosalind let out a soft, broken laugh. Butterfly pancakes? Yep. Indy grinned proudly. They don't always look like butterflies, but Daddy says practice makes perfect. Gabriel chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. She's generous. The first ones looked like melted snowmen. The three of them laughed together, and for a moment, the heaviness lifted. As the laughter faded, Rosalind began to talk, really talk. She told him about Jasper's love for animals, his endless curiosity, how he used to paint little faces on smooth creek stones and leave them in people's mailboxes to make them smile. Gabriel shared stories too, learning to braid hair from YouTube tutorials, trying to cook without burning the kitchen. The morning Indy convinced him ice cream counted as breakfast because it had strawberries in it. Each story wove them closer together, healing the frayed edges of Rosalind's spirit in small, invisible ways. When Mabel returned to check on them, she studied Rosalind for a moment with a grandmother's intuition. You know, dear, she said kindly, I could use an extra hand around here. Nothing fancy. Taking orders, serving coffee, helping with baking. It doesn't pay much, but it comes with tips and all the caffeine you can handle. Interested? Rosalind stared, stunned. I don't understand. You don't even know me. I know enough, Mabel said with a knowing smile. I know Gabriel Hayes brought you in Out of the Rain. I know you listened to his little girl talk about glitter and dance for almost an hour. That tells me more about who you are than any resume. Rosalind blinked back tears. Thank you, she whispered. I'd like that. When they stepped back into the misty drizzle outside, something in the world felt lighter. The bridge still loomed in the distance, its stones dark and wet. But it no longer looked like an ending. It looked like a beginning. As they reached Gabriel's apartment building, Rosalind stopped. Thank you, she said quietly, her voice trembling, for seeing me when I was invisible, for not letting me do something that couldn't be undone. Gabriel smiled softly. You know what? I think you saved us, too. He looked down at Indy, who was splashing in puddles with her yellow rain boots. We both needed reminding that kindness still matters. 6 months later, the auditorium at the Cedar Falls Community Center was packed. On stage, a banner read Grief Counseling Certification Ceremony. Gabriel sat in the front row beside Indy, who was clutching a bouquet of wildflowers. Daddy, she whispered, is Miss Rosalind going to be a butterfly too? Gabriel smiled. In her own way, kiddo. When Rosalind's name was called, she walked across the stage, radiant in a soft blue dress. The crowd applauded, but Gabriel's chest swelled for reasons deeper than pride. 6 months ago, she'd stood on that bridge ready to end her life. Now she was walking forward, toward healing, toward purpose. She had started working at Mabel's Cafe part-time and later enrolled in a grief counseling program. It hadn't been easy. Some days she still woke up crying, but she learned something vital. Love doesn't die. It transforms. It becomes strength. After the ceremony, she found Gabriel and Indy waiting with open arms. You did it. Indy squealed, handing her the flowers. Rosalind knelt and hugged her tight. I couldn't have without you, she whispered. You just needed hot chocolate and cookies, Indy said wisely, and butterfly pancakes. Gabriel laughed softly, but his heart was full. You know, he said to Rosalind, you're proof that hope isn't loud. Sometimes it's just quiet persistence, a choice to stay. Rosalind looked at him with eyes that once were hollow but now held life. You taught me that sometimes saving someone means just standing beside them until they remember how to stand on their own. The three of them stood together beneath the soft drizzle that had begun to fall outside. The bridge still stood in Cedar Falls, solid and unchanged, but for Rosalind it had become something sacred, a reminder not of death, but of rebirth. Now, when she crossed it each morning on her way to the counseling center, she paused to look down at the river below, not with despair, but gratitude. Gratitude for the night a stranger refused to walk away. And sometimes, when the weather turned gray and the world felt heavy again, she whispered the words that had saved her. Not today, because hope doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives quietly, wearing work boots, holding a child hand, and carrying a heart brave enough to care. If this story touched your heart, remember,